Oh, the meeting in progress. What am I doing?
No, it said recording in progress.
Oh, okay. Got it. It's on my screen. Does it show up there?
No.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, that's in the corner.
okay. You got it out? Cool. Okay, what I was saying was welcome to October Judges Corner. Stephen so graciously reminded me that last month I talked about bringing up some pictures and we're gonna do some props and all that stuff. Well, I didn't get that done. But on the good side, we got like 9 entries of images this week. So that should be enough to take up our time. And I will try and get caught up with cropping and all that stuff next time. So the first image we have is this one here. This was a beginner nature wildlife. It was titled Red Rock Evening. It scored 888. The comments that came with it is, it's a beautiful picture. The tree in the right third is nice. The keystone thrust is a nice feature to have in the keystone thrust is a nice feature to have in the picture. The lichen is great. The cylindri pudendum in the foreground is very nice, which we all know that's Rick Holmes' comment because he knows the name of every flower in here, and cactus, I should say. And I think it is very, very nice picture. So one thing I'm going to talk about with all the images I selected this month is, you guys will hate me after this one. So now what do I have? 8 or 10 viewers. So now next month I'll have like 2 viewers because everybody be mad at me. The reason I'm saying that is most of the pictures I picked, I would have probably scored lower. So I'm going to kind of go through those reasons why and the things I think are wrong, where the last couple of months I've been trying to say what I felt the other judges might have thought, or you know, how their, I guess their score was impacting the image and what I thought was good and bad about it. Still the same type of deal, but I'm just going to talk about things I think a little bit bad. Now, this being a beginner image, I think it's a great score. You know, I know I'm always a lot tougher than some of the judges, especially in certain categories. And then sometimes I'm a little rough on things I don't think should be in that category, which is the judge's preference. But I think this image here is great for a beginner, and I think they did a really good job. I don't know if they've done anything as far as editing the colors, but the lighting that's hitting the back mountain versus the front keystone rock that the judge was talking about versus all the way over to the right, which is this one here, the lighting's really different on those. And when I looked at this image, I thought it had pretty good potential, the layout, but the lighting being so different, it kind of affected me different. The lighting on this foreground cactus that the judge was talking about, I love that. I think the lighting on the background here is a good time of day. The keystone rock here, I think it's good that it has the lichen on that because that kind of helps it a lot because the lighting is really flat. For some reason, it's just the way it falls there. And then this tree, yes, it is in a third, but it's also kind of a big dead spot because it doesn't have the great lighting that you see on these other elements. And I almost felt it was a distraction to the image. So that's my comments. I think it deserved what it got, which is 24. And I think this one won the category. So, you know, definitely deserved a blue ribbon, especially in the beginner category, as far as putting all these elements together. I think it did really good. Would anybody else like to say something about it? Who do we have here? Let's see if I...
Can you hear me? This is Hugo.
Oh, hello.
Hi. I was looking at the tree, and one thing that is kind of distracting a little bit is that half of the tree has really good light, but the other half towards the right the shadows are more crescent. I think if it would illuminated the tree a little bit more, that will enhance the image.
Yes, and I agree, and that's why I was saying, even though the scoring judge said it was nice having that in the thirds, I did feel that tree was a little bit of a distraction. But again, you know, the cactus in the front, the rock here and that, so I almost felt that maybe cutting that out or cropping that out makes it a little bit stronger image. I still have a problem with that keystone rock being a little bit flat, but the lichen and you know, the black parts, whether it's mold or just deterioration, it does really help it a lot. I think all this light is broke up between the clouds, and I don't know. Once again, I said I don't know if the maker changed any of the light on it or just the different thicknesses of the clouds. You know, this light over here is warmer. This light over here is cooler. This light here is it's really pretty even, and then I like the backlighting here. So you kind of have light going from all directions, which is kind of cool. And I think that's what really made this image work, or made the scores a little bit higher. Cool. Anybody else? We're gonna move next one. Okay, the next one I selected, if it'll pop, there we go. Okay, so this was also a beginner category. This is Club Challenge, Zion Sunrise. This scored 887. Comments were, you did a very nice job capturing the sunrise. You were very lucky to have beautiful clouds in the sky. The highlights on the rocks were a little light, a little bright, but otherwise I would have scored it higher. I do absolutely agree with those comments. Once again, I think, you know, possibly from a beginner standpoint, it is relatively nice. I think it did score just a little bit high. I definitely would have given it a 7. I think the biggest problems, now I looked at it on the competition website for the projected website, and then also on my computer. And my computer's a little bit more yellow than it is on the competition site, but I still felt it's a little bit warm, even though it is this is sunrise, right? I said sunrise. Even though it is a sunrise, it's still a little bit warm. I think your horizon being right here is a little bit too much in the middle. It should have been probably up a little bit. I know this is such a hard thing, because if you raise this horizon line, then you lose some of the clouds. And if you lower this horizon line, you lose this shadow, which I do like the shadow on the rocks. But, you know, being in Club Challenge, you could have cut a little bit of this middle out and just lowered this a little bit, and just to see what it looks like. And since Stephen barked at me earlier because I forgot what I was doing this month, this might be one of the images that I change a little bit and crop a little bit next month, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But before I move on, does anybody else want to say anything about this one? This is Zion Sunrise Beginner Club Challenge. So yeah, I think the Club Challenge was sunrises or sunsets, one or the other. How many people you got on there, just out of curiosity? 11? Cool. I'm glad to see all you people joining these. I hope, whether you like what I'm saying or don't like what I'm saying, I hope you learn something, because that's really the most important thing, is just trying to hear different points of views and look at things while we talk about them. I did get a couple comments from people saying they would like to hear more comments. And if that's the case, then that's really, if you don't get a lot of comments at judging time, because sometimes judges are rushed and sometimes there's more images. I mean, there hasn't been a lot lately, but sometimes there's more images. So it's harder to discuss them. And then also you got to remember, sometimes the judges are thinking about everything, and sometimes the comments just don't come out when we're sitting there trying to judge it, trying to look at other images, trying to give it a placement, and our comments they just don't happen sometimes, and that's just a normal fact of life. Okay, so we're going to move on. Next one. Okay, this is an advanced image. Kruger National Park sunrise. This scored a 787, got a 22. It's the advanced club challenge. I said that already. Just make sure I'm on. Yep. Okay. Comments were, my eye keeps going to the bottom of the sun, and what is actually blocking it? It's just not really complementary to the picture. It seems over-processed. Otherwise, the colors are nice. So I think this is a really cool looking sun. I just don't think it has anything complementing it with the rest of the image. The trees are kind of nice. I mean, I know that's a mountain ridge in the back there that's blocking the sun, or the sun's just coming over the mountain ridge. I understand that part of it. I don't know if the other judge did or not, but that's beside the point. I mean, maybe it would have been a lot stronger if you could have moved. I know this is probably a tour, you're in a tour truck or a bus or somewhere, so I don't know if you had the ability to move around by yourself, but if a tree was in front of it a little bit more than that mountain range, maybe the judges would have liked it a little more. This horizon being right in the middle of your image, that kind of brings it down a little bit as well. I know maybe you're trying to savor some of that pink sky in the top, but I think the sun is great. And if there was some other way you could have displayed the sun or had something else around it. Stephen and I just spent about 3 hours, where were we? Custer State Park. We spent about 3 hours driving around Custer State Park, and we went to shoot buffalo. And yeah, I shot 100 pictures of buffalo, but I didn't shoot anything I'm going to show anyone, because it's either buffalo butts or their heads behind a tree, or, it's just sometimes, I mean, I would have taken the same picture because it's like, oh my God, I was there. Same thing. I shot a couple of buffalo just because I was there, but like one buffalo is just eating. He never pulled his head out of the grass. Another one, like I said, he's always walking away from me. So I got a buffalo butt, and it just doesn't make it a great image. So this one being a great sun, and I've never been here and shot this sun, but I have photographed suns just like this in Hawaii. They happen all the time, especially when you're in Kauai. This is like a normal thing, but the problem is, trying to run around and get something interesting in the foreground or in the background or whatever the case may be. Anybody else? Anybody want to say anything? I'm just looking to make sure people are still here. I talk to myself enough. I don't need to talk anymore to myself. I hear me enough.
Hi, this is
Yes.
Gina. I was just
Hi,
thinking,
Gina.
hi, maybe clarify some of that foggy look, bring that up. Might have made it more striking so the eye didn't fall to under the sun as much. Right now it's kind of a flat. The foreground is flat. So I think if he could have brought that up with clarity and luminance, probably would have made it a little more, less of an eye draw to the bottom of the sun.
Yes, I agree. That's a very good point. I mean, technically, we do have some depth of field with the greenery in the front compared to the trees in the back. But because there's no differentiation really of the lighting, we don't see a lot of that. So yes, it's kind of flat. Even though we have a sunrise and we have all these trees, this whole image is kind of flat, which is what she's saying.
And,
Yes,
and,
very good point.
and a lot of times you can clean that up, and it might have brought up some of that mountain line underneath the sun as well. So you can kind of post edit that.
And I think a little bit, and that was one of the comments from, felt like a little over, which one is it? I lost it. Oh, no.
Work with this, that sun as kind of a that look anyways. I think could overpress or
Yes,
still not offset.
right. All right, I lost my other part. That. Am I sharing? Do you see my screen?
Yeah,
I'm trying. One more time. There it goes. Okay, are we back now?
We're back.
Perfect. Okay, Gina, thank you very much. If you're still there, we were saying that was good comments. Yes, I agree with the processing. I kind of forgot where we left off on that. Okay, so we're going to move to the next one. And I don't know if anybody on here, actually, I do believe there was one or two. I did a program for Canon at BNC Camera, and it was abstract photography. So kind of the normal Nevada camera stuff that we've done before with all the little shooting stations. So kind of some of it's a little bit of macro, some of it's a little abstract, some of it's a little bit close up. But in my opinion, they're all part of the abstract category. And we had this discussion. And I did have a couple of people that disagreed with that and did not think that abstract was the same as close up or close up was the same as abstract. So it was interesting. And that's kind of why I picked out this image, especially because one of the judges said this would make a really good abstract. And I agree. So this was Advanced Color Still Life. The title was Kiwi. It scored an 898. I don't remember if I scored it, but this one actually I probably would have given a 9. I think this was handled really well. The seeds that are on top look like they're in focus. Otherwise, they're underneath the skin of the kiwi, and that would be the only reason they're out of focus. All the bubbles and the lines through there. Anyway, I don't remember if I judged it, but the comment, I did not do comments. The comments for this image would have also been appropriate for an abstract. It is nice. It's got nice lines coming out of the corner. Lead your eye into the picture. It's nicely presented. And I agree. That's pretty much all I wanted to say about this. I think it was handled very well. So it struck me funny as being an abstract or a close-up picture, and I had just got done with that program with Canon. Anybody else like to say something about this?
A lot of times when we talk about lines, we think of them as being very sharp, like a roadway or something like that. The very softness of these lines still leads your eye across the image.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I thought this was handled great. I mean, a lot of times we look at this is very direct diagonal lines. So it doesn't necessarily keep you into the image. It kind of leads you across it, like you just said, Ron, and that's a very good point. Other times we look for S curves or C curves that keep us into the image. And it doesn't matter with this because it's very pleasant. Cool. Okay. Next, what do we have? Okay, so this one was Advanced Club Challenge. This was Yellowstone Sunrise. it scored a 999. And so many times I'm asked, what is the wow factor or what is the impact? And I really believe this has a lot of that wow factor and a lot of that impact. I think pretty much, everybody that looked at it had that ooh or ah. We've kind of lost all that nowadays, not being able to meet in person when an image like this comes up and you can hear the audience kind of go, ooh, because they feel that mood. And I think sometimes that wow factors, it can be more the mood than anything else, whether it's a funny mood or a warm feeling or just a feeling of, God, I wish I was there, which I think is probably what most of us thought when we saw this. Technicalities. Let me read the comments first. Okay, absolutely beautiful photo. And even though everything is dead center for this image, it really works because it balances out. I can't see anything that I would have cropped out. I probably would have cropped it a little bit because it's not really dead center and it's not really in a PowerPoint. So it's kind of a little bit lopsided. Once again, I don't want to degrade a perfect score that this got, but on technical aspects, it probably would have lost a little bit of a point just for not having quite the compositional value. Your horizon line's right in the middle. The sunrise, not quite in the middle, but I know it is close. It's kind of a bullseye image. It's like I'd really like to take off a little bit of the sky on the right, but at the same time, I don't want to lose any of the wood at the bottom because the wood here we have those leading lines drawing us into the sunset, into the clouds, and that's really the reflections, everything. That's really what makes this image work. Anybody else like to say something? Okay, we can move on.
Just wow.
Yes, I know. That's wow. That's wow. That's exactly what it is. Okay, so make sure I'm on the right one. Okay, next image. Okay. So, speaking of being a judge and we see things, and a lot of times I see things and somebody else comments and I think I want to comment, but it's like I try not to take up too much time and I think of things and then I turn around and ask some of these people, or I'll ask Linda, hey, can see if we can talk about that image. And for the life of me, sometimes I get the images here and then I do another program, I do a PSA program, I come here and then I sit down and I go, man, I don't even know what the hell I was thinking about when I pulled this image up. But this is Advanced Club Challenge. Title, Every Sunrise Gives You a New Beginning. This scored 888. I really enjoyed the photo. I think we could have cropped out a little bit of the brightness or toned down the brightness of the foreground, but I love the sky and the fog bank. The fishing boats with their nets up. It's a really nice composition. So again, yes, I agree. There's a little bit too much water in the foreground, but then with the boats there, I don't know how much of that we could take out and still have the picture. I think this would make a really good slimline picture. I think maybe a little bit of the sky could be burned down just a little bit, but I don't think it's blown out that it should affect anything. This image is probably one of the ones tonight I would have scored a little bit higher. I think this has a little bit of wow factor to it. But once again, I think there's just a little bit of the technical problems. The fog bank is really cool. It's almost a little bit too big because it bleeds right into the sky, for my opinion. Anybody else like to talk about this? Anyone?
One of the things I didn't like was almost at first I thought, is this snow or water? I think they could have maybe colored that a little bit or brought that up maybe, and to me, the sky looks a little too much overdone. I probably would have balanced these a little different.
Yes. And I agree. That's what I had just said. It might be a little bit bright. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes with the digital stuff, it's really hard because we almost have three elements. We have what you edited your picture on versus what you're watching the program on and the program that's running it. And then if I get it and it's on my computer, it might even look a little bit different. That's why sometimes I try, before we talk about them here, I try and go back and look at them. This one was about the same. I don't think it was too much difference in the sky. The water's not the same color. There's a little bit of color. Could you put a little bit more in there? Being Club Challenge? Sure, you could have, made that a little warm, a little more orangey in the bottom. I think that would have been great. Cool, I like it. Okay,
I didn't notice it when we were looking at it, but I would have brought that left edge in a little bit to get rid of that tiny bit of the mountain that's dark. Because then you come just right to the edge of the fog and you don't have your eye distracted on the left.
right. Yeah, it's like I like a couple of the boats, and this boat that kind of goes across. We can see the boat, the water wake where the boat has gone across and then turns and starts heading back into the image. I really like that, and I still feel that maybe taking a little bit off the bottom would really emphasize that a little bit more. And I might even take a couple of boats out, like the boat that's far left and the boat that's far right, both. Because I do find myself kind of looking at all those boats. And then, like you just said, Ron, I follow that fog up to the tree line, and I just feel like it's a little bit high. I know what you're talking about by taking that off, so you don't see the black tree line at the far top left. I understand that.
That takes out the left boat.
Yes, that would take them both out. Correct. So, cool. I like it. Okay. Next, what do we have? Okay, so. Okay, this is Abstract Club Challenge. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I think it's Advanced Club Challenge, not Abstract Club Challenge. I think I had Abstract in my mind when I was looking at it, and I think this would probably make a fun, good abstract. But besides that, Mexican Sunrise is the title. This scored an 877. The only comment was sunrise after too many tequilas. I guess going off of the title of the Mexican Sunrise. I have a feeling, I kind of liked this image. I don't think it would have scored much higher, but it might have scored a little bit higher if it was in the abstract category, or maybe even a creative category. I think it's kind of fun. I think it just didn't click with the club challenge or the sunrise sunset. If you didn't have the title in there, I don't think anyone would have known exactly what it was. I like the ring at the top. It kind of almost looks like a moon, and then a little bit of color in the water. But again, if without that title kind of telling me that, I don't know if I would have got this right off the bat. Maybe a little bit too much dark on the bottom, a little bit crazy colors in the middle, but I think it's kind of a fun image. I think the biggest problem was just being in the club challenge, especially even though judges are supposed to judge each image on an individual, technicality or technical score point, score scale, technical scale, whatever. Sometimes it's hard when we see, 3 or 4 sunrises in a row, like we just looked at here, and then this comes up being in the same category. We think different in Nevada Camera Club, and Nevada Camera Club judges think different when we look at a string of images versus some other competitional organizations in the way they judge things. So anybody else like to say something? That was Mexican Sunrise.
Yeah, this is Hugo. I agree with you. This image would be a lot score better on abstract. Any maybe cropping a little bit the dark on the bottom, just matching to where the yellows begin. That would be a great image on the abstract category.
Yes, or even creative. I think it's a very creative image. I think the judges, do I think this was 3 9s? No. Do I think it could have scored a little bit higher if maybe the judges that were judging it understood a little bit more? Yes, I do. And that's what I'm saying. I think the judges' minds would have scored it a little bit higher just in one of those two categories. So thank you. Cool. And once again, I know, the comments that came during competition weren't very helpful or whatever, but there was a couple comments I got with images that actually had 3 or 4 comments, but I still had people say, the comments weren't that great, so I didn't hear anything. And then I've heard a couple people just ask for more comments because they say, I got a good score, but I didn't learn anything from them telling me it's just great. And once again, it's just, sometimes it just falls that way. It's like, sometimes we don't know what to say sometimes. I mean, Mary just a minute ago said her comment was wow. And that's what that image deserved, was a wow, because that's what it is. But I know sometimes that doesn't help in directing, what could be better. And can everything be improved? I guess if you're that hardcore oil painter where images are never finished and you always got to put a little more paint on there, that's kind of how I am sometimes. So if I try to correct a 999, don't take it personally. I just try to help out everywhere I can. Okay, next image. Actually, we've got one more. So before I get into this, I do want to say there was 2 football images this last time. Both were entered in 2 different categories, so they had nothing to do with each other. It wasn't the same maker, wasn't anything. Well, actually, I guess you don't know, but the other one had a distinct big problem, so the score was dropped right away. That's why I wanted to talk about this one. Plus, this was in photojournalism. Let's see, photojournalism. This was color and it was master. The title is Fumble, and the score was 889. It got a 26. Comments. I think the action is being captured very nicely. I can understand what's going on. It's in focus. So I agree with the photojournalism value. This has way high scoring points for the photojournalism value. The judge said, I can understand what's going on. Yes, it tells a great story. I guess I wouldn't know if it's a fumble or an incomplete pass, but that's still beside the point, because whether I had either one of those titles, it's still great action. The problem I do have is with the focus, because I don't think the focus is anywhere here where it should be, or it should be here. Most of the focus I see is right here at the waistline. The seam on these pants looks way more in focus than the seam right here, or almost even than the seam in the helmet. So that's the only problem I had. And man, I know how hard it is to shoot sports, and especially night games when the lights are terrible. When I shot NASCAR, the thing I hated the most was shooting night NASCAR races. Oh man, I hated it. It's like I like to shoot out in the sun when it's all nice and sunny and everything else. But I think the focus, you might have had it on the chest, where I do the same thing, especially in baseball. I try and focus on the chest. It's easier. But I think that focus, they're extended so far forward. I just don't see all the focus, here, or here where all the action is. That's the only thing I had problem with this. So unfortunately, I probably would have scored this a little bit lower. I think it got a great score. I think it did really good. And just to capture this, another thing compared to this one and the other one, I really wish his leg was in here. I know, if you're shooting with a prime lens, you don't have that ability. I love seeing all of him with this leg brace. I really wish I saw that leg with the leg brace. I think that adds a lot of to his impact being on the ground. He almost looks like he's already in pain, missing the ball or dropping the ball, whatever he had to do there. But other than that, this is an extraordinary image with all the action and the capture. You might think about a little bit faster shutter speed, which probably means a little bit higher ISO. I shoot really high ISOs when I'm shooting sports and sometimes wildlife. And I know people are scared of the high ISOs, but I always kind of preach that. We were in Africa, and I think a couple people on this program were in Africa last time, and I was talking about shooting a little bit higher ISOs because a little more grain is more important than a little loss of focus. So if you got to level the two out, I'd rather have a little bit more grain and more focus, and that might have even helped if you had a little bit higher ISO. Maybe you could have had a little more depth of field with your aperture, but regardless, a little bit higher ISO, a little bit faster shutter speed. And if anybody has watched the recording from the PSA, I had Stephen, can you help me with the name? Patrick Racy Murphy was just on there, and he shoots a lot of football and shoots a lot of sports, and he shoots like way high ISOs, even more than me, but he also shoots wide open, and he shoots 8,000 shutter speed almost all the time. And listening to him talk about that was one of the reasons I wanted to talk about a football pitcher or a sports pitcher, and that's kind of why I asked this. He doesn't talk about it in our program, but he does have some other programs on there. So he's got a whole web page full of blogs and everything else about sports and all the stuff he does. So for all the photojournalism people or sports people, might be something good to go and watch him talk about some of those things. Cool. Anybody have anything to say about this picture?
With respect to the high ISO, not necessarily this picture, but I have recently had to do it, shoot at high ISO because it was very windy, and I ran the raw files through DxO Pure Raw, and it really cleaned up the picture from the high ISO.
Very good. What was that? What was that called again, Rick?
DxO Pure Raw.
Cool. I will check it out. I use the Adobe Raw when I'm uploading my images or downloading my images or opening them in Photoshop. And I always take a little bit of noise out of there. And then I also use the denoise from Topaz. I seem to like that a little bit more than the Nik software, but I haven't used actually DxO. Nik owns DxO, don't they? Or DxO owns Nik. Yeah, so it might be a little bit of the same, but I have not tried the Pure Raw. Cool. All right, guys. That is what we have for this month, Judges Corner. I believe I am judging in competition this next time, so I will try and watch and pick out some stuff, and then hopefully next time I will have a little bit more time and I will do some cropping, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jerome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerome.